Hello, my dear students. The topic on the establishment of British relation with Manipur till the outbreak of Anglo-Manipur War of 1891 will be covered in 2 lectures. This is Unit 4 of Paper 601 for BA Honours History, Manipur University. The first part, which will be today's lecture, will be on the background or the genesis of Manipur's relation with the British and the signing of the Anglo-Manipur Treaty of 1762. The second lecture will cover the 7 years devastation, 1819 to 1827 in Manipur, the Treaty of Yandabo, 1826, and the establishment of political agency in Manipur. So, let us start today's lecture, that is, the establishment of British relation with Manipur and Anglo-Manipur Treaty of 1762. In order to comprehend the genesis of Manipur-British relations, we need to understand why was there the need for the relations. What was the factor that brought together Manipur and British to come together up to the extent of signing a treaty, the Treaty of 1762? And what was the outcome of the treaty? Here, I have divided the lecture into 5 parts. The first part is on the British policy of expansion and annexation. Second, Burma's expansion towards the frontier of British India. Third, Manipur's relation with Burma. Fourth, Manipur's contact with British. And the fifth is the Anglo-Manipur Treaty of 1762. The first part, which is the British policy of expansion and annexation. The Company of Merchants of London trading into East Indies was founded in 1600, generally known as British or East India Company. It gained a foothold in India with the establishment of a factory in Masulipatam in 1611 and a factory in Surat in 1612. However, the beginning of British political sway over India began with the Battle of Plassey in 1757, when the English East India Company's force defeated Siraj-ud-Daulah, the Nawab of Bengal. The Battle of Plassey was of immense historical importance. It paved the way for the British mastery of Bengal and eventually for the whole of India. The British never lost sight of their motives, like political interests, which would enhance their trade. In this context, S.K. Saube, in Hill Politics in Northeast India, writes, "Fate seems determined to prove that there shall be no rest for the English in India till they stand forth as governors or advisors of each tribe and people in the land." It was the same motives which inspired the British to enter into the Brahmaputra Valley. The English East India Company came into contact with various semi-independent chiefs and tribes of northeastern frontier areas. According to Gina Sankham in her PhD thesis, the British colonial rule in the hills areas of Manipur, 1891 to 1947, submitted to Manipur University. The penetration of the British into the interior and frontier parts of Northeast India was partly there of British desire to explore trade potential as well as expansion of their trade relation with China and Burma, which is Myanmar, and also partly due to the invitation for defense by the local native people. Second, Burma's expansion towards the frontiers of British India. The Konwong dynasty, formerly known as Alumpara dynasty or Alungpaya dynasty, was the last dynasty that ruled Burma from 1752 to 1885. It created the second largest empire in Burmese history and continued the administrative reforms begun by Tuangwu dynasty laying the foundation of modern state of Burma. The reforms, however, proved insufficient to stem the advance of the British, who defeated the Burmese in all three Anglo-Burmese wars over a 6-decade span starting from 1824 to 1885 and ended the millennium-old Burmese monarchy in 1885. An expansionist dynasty, the Konbong kings waged campaign against Manipur, Arakan, Assam, the Mon kingdom of Pegu, and Siamese kingdom of Ayutthaya, thus establishing the Third Burmese Empire. Conflict began between Burma and the British when the Alungpaya dynasty or the Konbong dynasty decided to expand into Arakan in the state of Assam, close to British-held Chittagong in India. Third, Manipur's relation with Burma. The relationship between Manipur and Burma can aptly be described as the interplay of raids and counter-raids. When one power rises to prominence, other would recede to background and vice versa, which equally resulted into devastation of both. The Manipuri raids and the subsequent Burmese retaliation marked an important watershed in the history of both the kingdoms. It was during the reign of King Garivani 1720 to 1751 in Manipur that the raiding expedition went deeper into the heartland of Burma. In 1735, Maharaja Garivani of Manipur collected cows and slaves from Maidu of Soebo district after attacking it. He destroyed some villages and pagodas, sending cavalry to the upper part of Burma. Again, in 1738, he was camping near Saigon. According to the order of Maharaj Garivani, Kwanmung Dao pagoda built by King Thalun of Burma was taken care of. The Maharaja entered the pagoda and put a short mark on the eastern door of the pagoda. As a response, Burmese Emperor Alungpaya retaliated and ransacked Manipur in 1755 and 1758, which the people of Manipur call it as the first devastation. King Alungpaya took thousands of Manipuris as captives to Sagang and Amarapura district and settled them there. These brutal invasions were followed by another in 1764. The fourth part, which is Manipur's contact with the British. The first instance of official contact between Manipur and British was in 1762, when a treaty was signed between Haridas Gosain, representing Gambhir Singh, and Mr. Verlest, the then chief of the factory of the East India Company at Chittagong. The rise of the Burmese imperialism was the primary concern for both the parties involved. The impending threat of Burmese expansion of Arakan in the state of Assam, close to British-held Chittagong in India, led the British to look for an ally in the region. The kingdom of Ahom was in chaos due to internal fighting. So, with no alternatives, the British looked up towards Manipuri as their ally. For Manipur, the menace of Burmese raids and counter-raids had taken a toll on the tiny kingdom. So, extension of friendship towards the British was the last hope for the preservation and independent existence of the kingdom. Fifth, the Anglo-Manipur Treaty of 1762. The treaty was signed on 14 September 1762 between Haridas Gosain, acting on behalf of Raja Jai Singh of Manipur, and Mr. Harry Verelset, chief of Chittagong factory, on behalf of the British East India Company. The article of the treaty on the question of Burmese threat stated that Raja Jai Singh would be assisted by the English troops from time to time for the recovery of the land belonging to the Raja, as he had been disposed of his land by the Burmese. For the assistance of the English troops, Raja Jai Singh had to pay at the expiration of every month expenses of the contingent as long as they remain in his service. After signing these articles, injuries done by the Burmese to the English would be treated as injury done to the Raja. They would consider the other's enemy as their own enemy. It was also agreed that Raja Jai Singh shall not enter into any accommodation with the Burmese without the advice and approbation of the English, nor shall the English enter into a separate and distinct treaty with the Burmese without previously advising Raja Jai Singh. Regarding the establishment of trade and commerce, the treaty mentioned that Raja Jai Singh shall grant land to the English for the building of factory and forts for the transaction of business and protection of their persons and factory in any part under his government. Raja Jai Singh shall grant permission to the English for an open trade into and through his country free of all duties, hindrance, and molestation, and that the Raja will ever protect and defend the English in the same. The main aim of the treaty was to get military assistance from the British East India Company against the Burmese. The company sent armed troops in assistance of Manipur, but they cannot advance beyond Kasar on account of the rain and the hilly terrain. The force was recalled. The Court of Directors of the East India Company did not like the treaty and instructed Fort Williams not to proceed with the treaty. Manipur also found the treaty expensive and unfruitful. Both the parties therefore abandoned the treaty. Nothing substantial also came out of the treaty, and little communication between the two countries took place until 1824. This ends the first part of the establishment of British relationship with Manipur. The second part will be on the Treaty of Yandabo, the Anglo-Manipur War of 1899, which will be discussed in the next lecture. Thank you.